Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. To conclude a week of non-stop surprises, we get probably the biggest surprise I've had in months. Calvin Ridley was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Calvin Ridley is a really good wide receiver, but he's also a player who hasn't even crossed my mind since probably January. You see, middle of last season, he decided to take some time off for mental health reasons. In other words, he decided to bet on NFL games because he wanted to take a break. And then he got suspended because of it for this whole season. Now, there are trade rumors popping up about Calvin Ridley being traded, but it seemed quite unlikely given the fact that he was suspended for this whole season. It's not a great contract for the Falcons in the first place, and he's out for the whole season, so it wouldn't make sense to trade for mid-season, right? Only a stupid general manager on a terrible organization would do that, right? And that's exactly what happened with Trent Baalke on the Jacksonville Jaguars, trading for Calvin Ridley. Now, it's not a terrible trade for them. You see, Trevor Lawrence could use a true superstar wide receiver to help bring him to the superstar status. Christian Kirk has been solid this year, but we all know he's not a superstar wide receiver. Not what they're paying him to be, obviously. So, it makes sense that you would try and acquire, or find in the draft, a superstar wide receiver, which they did. But at the same time, this means they're openly waiting for a whole nother season for Trevor Lawrence to develop into a potential superstar quarterback. So I would have acquired someone who would have been available now, who's really good, and who could boost Trevor Lawrence's status now. Could even help them win the division. Maybe DJ Moore. We don't know if he was available or not. He wasn't traded. And it kind of makes sense for the Panthers because he's a young wide receiver and he could be there for their next quarterback to boost him to superstar status. But he could have still been available at the right price, in which case they could have gotten Trevor Lawrence a really good weapon as well. That isn't suspended right now, and we'll see when Calvin Ridley comes back. We don't know exactly. He hasn't played now in over a year, so it might not be the brightest idea. It's like Deshaun Watson, because when someone hasn't played for that long, you don't know how they're going to be when they come back to the field. So, I don't quite get this trade. I can understand why the Falcons were willing to let him go. This makes tons of sense. Now they have Kyle Pitts and Drake London, two young, star-rising pass catchers. But the Jaguars have enough receivers for now, and it doesn't make sense to acquire a guy who could even be a cancer in the locker room. I don't know personally, but it doesn't seem like a great sign that he decided to leave the team and then just go bet on things. So, we'll have to see. In exchange, the Atlanta Falcons received a 2024 second-round pick and a 2025 fifth-round pick. So, it's not a bad deal for the Jaguars in pick-wise. If Calvin Ridley was playing, he would likely be worth a first-round pick. So to get him for the low price of a 2024 second-round pick and a fifth-round pick later on isn't that bad for the Jaguars. But they may have just acquired a huge cap hit, and he might not do anything for them. We'll see. He was always good in Atlanta next to Julio Jones. But this past season, before he decided to take time off, then he wasn't that good alone. So maybe he just needs to be the number 2 receiver on the team. Even though he looks great, he could be a great number 1 receiver. He's better off when someone else is taking on the number 1 cornerback so he can take on the easier guys. But it's tough to say. We don't know what Calvin Ridley is going to be like because he hasn't played in so long. So it's tough to say. But I don't love this deal for the Jaguars. But on the Falcons side, I love it. And I love this Falcons regime. They've done well this season. They've proven that they're a good team. They've brought in a whole new environment to the locker room. So I just love this new Falcons regime. It is great for the Falcons. And I can see in a couple of years them being back in Super Bowl contention. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you guys again even sooner than you would think.